So hi everyone, my name is Shivam Bohra. I'm a third year computer science engineering student from Dehradun. I love solving problems and I also love to teach. Welcome to our channel, Learn Competitive Programming with CodeChef. So if you are interested in competitive programming and want to learn and master data structures and algorithms, then this is a one-stop destination for you. Here we post weekly problem explanations, conceptual videos on various programming paradigms, and also conduct live problem solving sessions. So before we actually get started, here's a reminder for you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already yet.
So the prerequisite for this particular course is the basic knowledge of C++ and the following data structures and algorithms. Now, before we actually move on to the algorithm part, we first need to understand what an iterator is, right? So an iterator is basically a pointer to the memory location where the container is stored, right? It is a pointer to the memory location where the container is stored, right? To use an iterator in the program, we need to include this header file called as iterator, right? Now here we have a container, or here we have an array A, right? This array A is of size 5 and it is storing 5 different elements, right? Now let's say I want to create an iterator for this A, right? So firstly, I'll copy the type of A. So the type of A is array. So I'll copy each and everything from here till the triangular braces and I'll write it as it is, then a space, then 2 colons, then iterator, then the name of the iterator, which is I, right? So here I have created an iterator for this A, right? Now let's say I want to initialize this iterator I to the memory location of the first array element, right? I want to initialize this I to the memory location of this 0 over here, right? So I'll write I equals to A dot begin, right? And round braces, right? Now, if you think that this line over here, this type of the iterator is too long for you to write, then you can also write auto here, right? But make sure that you're initializing this iterator over here. Otherwise, if you're not initializing this I, then you have to write the whole thing, right? So here, since I'm initializing the I over here, so I can simply write auto over here, right? So after this, I can simply print the first element of this array using this iterator I, right? I can simply write star I, the value at this memory location, which should print 0, right? So if I run this code, then firstly it would print the first element or the 0th element inside this array. So the 0th element inside this array is 0 itself. So firstly it would print 0. Then I have incremented the value of I. So now instead of pointing over here, now it will point to this memory location, right? So now this time it will print 1, right? So this time it would print this time this star I would print 1, right? If I increment I again over here, and if I run this code again, so this time it would print 3 in the second case, right? So here we can see that it has printed 3. So now let's understand what this a.begin actually is, right? And similar to a.begin, we also have something called as a.end, right? So the first thing that we need to know is that the array elements are stored sequentially, right? The array elements are stored sequentially, which means that the first array element, or this array element 0, if let's say it is stored at memory address 101, then the next array element which is 1, it would be stored to the next memory location, right? And similarly the next array element would be stored to the next memory location, and so on, right? So 0 is stored at 101, 1 is stored at 102, 3 is stored at 103, and so on, right? Now in this particular case, this a.begin points to this 0, which means that the value of a dot begin is this address 101, or the value of a dot begin is 101, right? Similarly, the value of a dot end is not the last element, is not 105, but to the next of the last element, which is 106, right? So a dot end is pointing to 106, right? Now the element at 101 is 0, the element at 102 is 1, and similarly the element at 105 is 2, but the element at 106 is a garbage or a random value. This is because the last value stored at inside this array is 2, which is present at 105, but 106 is not something which is inside this array, so it contains a garbage or a random value, right? So over here, if I print star a dot begin, star simply means that value at this address, right? So value at the first memory location is 0, so this would print 0, right? And a dot end points to this 106, which contains a garbage or a random value, so this would print any random value, right? So if I run this code now, then here we can see that the first value is 0, which is the first element inside this array, and the second value is a random or a garbage value, right, which is pointed by star a dot end, right? So now let's talk about STL algorithms. So to use STL algorithms, we have to include this header file called as algorithm. So the first algorithm function that we are going to see is reverse, right? So simply write reverse, then array name dot begin function, comma, array name dot end function, right? So what this reverse function would do is it would simply reverse our original array. So let's run the code. So here we can see that our array elements have been reversed, right? Similarly, we have this sort function which would arrange the array elements in ascending order, right? It would arrange the array elements in ascending order. To sort the array elements in descending order, first I would copy this sort function. So this is the sort function to arrange the array elements in ascending order. So after this a dot end, I'll put an extra comma and I'll write greater, then triangular brackets open, and I'll write the data type of the array elements. Since my array contains integers, so I'll write int over here, right? And then round braces open and round braces close, right? So adding this greater int function inside this sort function would sort the array in descending order, right? So firstly, we are sorting the array in ascending order, then we are printing it, and then we are sorting the array in descending order, and then we are printing it, right? So if I run this code now, then here we can see that this is the array in ascending order, and this is the array in descending order. So now let's talk about the STL lower bound and the upper bound. Now these two are one of the most important STL algorithms, as they are used extensively in competitive programming. So to use the lower bound or the upper bound function, we first need to sort the array, right? This is because internally the lower bound or the upper bound function use binary search, right? So initially this array A has these 5 values, or it is initialized with these 5 values. So initially the array has these 5 values. After sorting the array, the values would be rearranged in ascending order. So let's say I want to find the lower bound of 2, right? So firstly, the lower bound of 2 would give me a pointer to an element inside this array. So to note the value of that pointer, I have to write star lower bound, right? So the star lower bound would be the smallest value inside this array, which is greater than or equal to this 2, right? So the smallest value inside this array, which is greater than or equals to 2, is this 2 itself, right? And if we have multiple 2s, then the first one would be taken, right? So the value of this lower bound of 2 would be 2 itself, right? Similarly, the value of lower bound of 3 would be 3 itself, because 3 is present over here, right? And the value of lower bound of 4 would be 7, because 7 is the smallest number which is greater than or equal to 4, right? Similarly, the upper bound is used to find the smallest greater element, right? So the value at the upper bound of 2 would give me the smallest element which is greater than this 2, right? So the smallest element over here which is greater than this 2 is 3 itself, right? So it would give me 3. If there are multiple 3's, then this would point to the first 3. Similarly, the lower or the upper bound of 3 would give me 7, right? Because in this array, 7 is the smallest element which is greater than this 3, right? And similarly, the upper bound of 4 is also 7. So this is basically how the upper bound and the lower bound function actually works. Now to write the lower bound function, simply write lower underscore bound, then round braces open, then array name dot begin, comma array name dot end, comma the number whose upper bound we have to find, right? So let's say we have to find the upper bound of 2, right? Now the lower bound is going to give me the pointer of this 2. So I have to write star lower bound to get the value of the upper bound of 2, right? Or the array element. So similarly, I have written the upper bound function as well. So the lower bound function would give me the lower bound of 2 in this array, and the upper bound function would give me the upper bound of 2 in this array, right? So if I run this code now, then here we can see that the lower bound of 2 is 2, the lower bound of 2 is 2, and the upper bound of 2 is 3. The upper bound of 2 is 3, right? So now let's quickly discuss the time complexities of all the algorithms or functions that we have seen till now. So this reverse function takes big of n time complexity. This sort function internally uses multiple sorting algorithms, so we can expect a time complexity of n log n in the worst case. The lower bound or the upper bound function internally uses binary search, so we can expect big O of log n time complexity, right?